Hi, this is NextGen Picks. Look, I'll admit it. I screwed up. I did exactly what those glossy marketing ads told me was the upgrade. I pulled my perfectly reliable, beautiful 85-inch QLED off the wall and dropped nearly $3,000 on a so-called cinema-grade projector. I wanted that massive 120-inch movie theater dream at home. 3 days later, I was sitting in a pitch-dark room, squinting at a dull, washed-out image, wondering where all my contrast disappeared. I bought into the hype, and honestly, I felt foolish. The spec sheet proudly claimed 3,000 lumens. The reality was a foggy picture that completely fell apart the moment even a single lamp was turned on. Before we dig into the numbers and fine print, the big brands hope you never read, do me a quick favor. If you're tired of influencers who get free gear and magically never find a flaw, hit that like button and subscribe to NextGen Picks. We don't take brand deals here. We take risks so you don't have to. Your support is the only reason I can stay this brutally honest about the tech sitting in my own living room. Now let's talk about something no one warns you about. Your house might actually be the biggest enemy of your home theater. I'll never forget the first time I powered on that $3,000 laser projector. Curtains closed, snacks ready, expectations high, and what I saw was a dull gray rectangle that looked like something straight out of a cheap 1990s hotel room. Here's the first hard truth you need to accept. Projectors don't create black. They simply stop throwing light onto the wall. If your wall is white, your blacks are literally just your wall color in low light. Let that sink in. We're obsessing over infinite contrast on OLEDs, while the projector world is basically selling us a glorified flashlight wrapped in a fantasy. The marketing shouts 3,000 lumens, but what they don't explain is that to actually see those lumens with real punch, you either need to live in a windowless bunker or spend another $2,000 on an ambient light rejecting screen, an ALR screen. Without it, that expensive projector gets absolutely destroyed by a $600 budget TV from Costco the second any light enters the room. And I know what you're thinking, NextGen Picks. People use projectors for the scale. You can't get a 120-inch TV for $3,000. And you're right. But is scale worth the sacrifice of every other metric that makes an image look good? I used to think so. I was wrong. Let's look at the first heavy hitter I tested to try and fix my mistake, the Epson Pro Cinema LS12000. The LS12000 is a beast, a massive matte black housing that weighs about 50 lb. This isn't one of those cute portable lifestyle projectors. This is a dedicated cinema machine. It's rated at 2700 ISO lumens. Now notice I said ISO, not peak or marketing lumens. Epson is one of the few brands that actually plays fair with their brightness ratings. In a pitch black room, the LS12000 is honestly, it's breathtaking. The color accuracy out of the box is nearly perfect. I ran a colorimeter test and it hit 100% of the DCI P3 color gamut without me even touching a slider. That's the insider secret. Most budget projectors have a green tint because green is the brightest color to the human eye, so they pump it up to fake their lumen numbers. Epson doesn't do that, but here's where the fine print comes in. The LS12000 uses 4K Pro UHD technology. Translation, it's not a native 4K chip. It's a 1080p chip that vibrates at a high frequency to shift pixels into a 4K pattern. Does it look sharp? Yes. Does it look as sharp as a native 4K Sony? No. If you sit 8 ft away from a 120-inch screen, you will see the difference. You'll see a slight softness on fine text or the texture of a character's skin. And then there's the input lag. For the gamers watching, this is a massive win. We measured 19 milliseconds at 4K 120 Hz. That is unheard of for a projector. I played Call of Duty on a wall-sized screen and didn't feel like I was stuck in a vat of molasses. But, and this is a huge but, to get that performance, you lose dynamic tone mapping. Without that, HDR content can look either way too dark or completely blown out depending on the scene. You're constantly fiddling with the remote. Is that what you want for $3,000? A part-time job as a calibrator. Look, I'm putting a lot of work into these deep dives because I want you to avoid the buyer's remorse I felt. But I can't do it alone. I want to know what's the one piece of tech you're currently eyeing, but you're too scared to pull the trigger on because the reviews feel like paid ads. Drop a comment below. I'm building our next testing schedule based on what you guys are actually worried about buying. If the Epson is the safe bet, the next one is for the people who want the absolute sharpest image possible, even if it hurts their soul. We're talking about the Sony VPL WX5000ES. This is where the native 4K war begins. Sony uses an SXRD panel, which is basically their version of LCOS. Unlike the Epson, every single one of those 8.3 million pixels is physically there on the chip. No shifting, no vibrating, just pure resolution. When you see a 4K Blu-ray on this thing, it makes the Epson look like it has a thin layer of Vaseline on the lens. The clarity is staggering. Thermal camera overlay showing the heat exhaust. Sony's cooling is impressively quiet, but it pumps out some serious BTUs. You cannot hide this in a cabinet. It needs air. But Sony pulled a fast one on the features. To get that native 4K chip into a lower price bracket, they stripped out the motorized lens. That means if you want to switch between 169 for sports and 2.351 for movies, you have to get up, walk to the projector, and manually twist the dials. In 2026, for this much money, it feels like buying a Ferrari with manual crank windows. And don't get me started on the HDMI 2.0 limitation. This is the marketing trap of the century. They call it a gaming projector because of the low lag, but it can't actually do 4K at 120 Hz because the ports don't have the bandwidth. You're capped at 60 Hz. If you're a PS5 Pro or PC gamer, you're buying a bottleneck. Here's where it gets weird. I compared the Sony to the JVC DLA NP5. Now, JVC is the holy grail for home theater nerds because of one thing: native contrast. While Sony and Epson use software tricks to dim the laser and make fake blacks, JVC's chips are physically built to block more light. But JVC is stubborn. The NP5 still uses a traditional lamp, not a laser. That means every 2,000 to 3,000 hours, you're dropping $500 on a new bulb. It also takes 3 minutes to warm up before you can even see an image. It's old school tech in a new school world. If you just want to turn on the TV and watch the news, the JVC will drive you insane. So we have the Epson, the Value Och Gaming King, the Sony, the Sharpness King, and the JVC, the Contrast King. But all of them share the same fatal flaw that made me miss my 85-inch TV. They all require a long throw. You need 12 to 15 FT of space to get a big image. That means ceiling mounts, running 50 FT HDMI cables through your walls, and professional installation. I know what you're thinking. Is there a way to get the big screen without the construction project? That's where the laser TV or ultra-short throw US market comes in. And honestly, this is where I found the most lies. The most marketing fluff, and surprisingly, the only real solution for most of you. Let's look at the Hisense PX3 Pro. This is what the industry calls a triple laser US. It sits just inches from your wall and shoots the image upward. No mounting, no long cables. Just put it on your media console and you're done. But there is always a but. Because it uses 3 separate lasers, some people experience laser speckle. It looks like the image is covered in tiny shimmering grains of sand. If you're sensitive to it, it's like an itch you can't scratch. You'll never be able to unsee it. And here is the insider truth about USS. They're picky eaters when it comes to walls. If your wall isn't perfectly flat, and I mean perfectly flat, the image will look wavy. Because the light is hitting the wall at such a steep angle, every tiny bump or curve in your drywall becomes a massive shadow. You basically must buy a fixed-frame ALR screen with a US, which adds another $1,000 to $1,500 to the price. Suddenly, your $3,000 projector is a $4,500 system, and you still can't use it with windows open. Look, I'll be honest with you. If you're moving from a high-end 85-inch TV like the Samsung S90D or the LG G4, you are going to be disappointed by the pop of any projector in this price range. You are trading quality for quantity. You're trading 2,000 nits of HDR brightness for maybe 100. So why did I keep the projector? Because once you see a life-size person on your wall, a 1.1 scale cinematic experience, going back to a big TV feels like watching a tablet. But you have to know what you're giving up. But if the Hisense is the color king of the ultra-short throw world, it's definitely not the contrast king. That title is currently being held hostage by a unit that the internet absolutely loves, and honestly one that I have a massive love-hate relationship with: the 4-movie theater. If you spend any time on home theater forums, this is the golden child. It uses something called ALPD 4.0 technology. Insider translation: it's a hybrid system that uses lasers and phosphor to try and get the best of both worlds. High brightness and better black levels without the dreaded laser speckle. And in a dark room on a proper ALR screen, it works. The black bars on top and bottom of a movie actually look dark gray instead of glowing white. It's the closest a US gets to that JVC lamp-based look. It's also one of the very few projectors that supports Dolby Vision. This is huge on paper. Dolby Vision uses dynamic metadata to adjust the picture scene by scene. On a TV that hits 1000 nits, it's amazing. On a projector that hits 250 nits, it's a mixed bag. Sometimes it helps crush those blacks down to make the image look punchier, but sometimes it just dims the whole image so much you feel like you need sunglasses. Here's where it gets weird. This $3,000 premium device has the absolute worst operating system I have tested in 5 years. It runs a neutered version of Android TV that is sluggish, buggy, and get this, doesn't even support Netflix natively. You have to sideload add some sketchy mobile version that requires a mouse to navigate. You just spent $3,000 to get a cinema experience, and you're stuck plugging in a $50 Roku stick just to watch Stranger Things. And gamers, stay away. The input lag on the 4-movie sits around 40 milliseconds. That's fine for Animal Crossing, but if you play any competitive shooter, you'll be dead before you even see the enemy on screen. It is a pure dedicated movie machine that demands you supply your own streaming box and sound system because the built-in Bowers and Wilkins speakers are just okay. So, if the 4-movie is for the darkroom cinephile, who is the AWOL Vision LTV 3500 Pro for? This thing is the muscle car of projectors. It's loud, it's brash, and its whole marketing shtick is brute force. A wall on the left, a standard LED TV on the right, in a room with ambient light. They claim 3,500 lumens. And for once, a company isn't totally lying. This thing is a light cannon. If you have a living room where you can't control the light, maybe you have open windows or a kitchen nearby, the AWOL is one of the few projectors that can actually punch through that ambient light and give you a watchable image during the day. Notice I said watchable, not great. When you pump up brightness like this on a projector, something has to give. In this case, it's color accuracy and contrast. To get those lumens, the reds are pushed so hard they look radioactive. Everybody on screen looks like they just ran a marathon in a 100 red degree weather. You can calibrate it down, but then you lose the brightness you paid for. And the black levels, they don't exist. In a dark room, a black image on the AWOL looks like a bright gray fog. This is not a movie night projector. This is a Super Bowl party at 2 p.m. with the lights on projector. It's a massive, expensive television replacement for people who refuse to buy a television. And can we talk about the features they pad the price with? It has active shutter 3D support. Look, I'll be honest with you. Who is watching 3D movies at home in 2026? You have to wear these bulky, expensive glasses that darken the image even further, and the emitter sometimes loses sync, so the image flickers. It's a gimmick included so they can add another bullet point to the spec sheet and charge you an extra $500. I know what you're thinking, NextGen picks. These are all huge, expensive, permanent installs. What about those portable projectors I see on Instagram? The ones people set up in their backyard or point at their ceiling in bed? That brings us to the lifestyle trap. Let's look at something like the XGMI Horizon Ultra. Now, this isn't a tiny portable battery toy. It's a serious plug-in portable 4K long throw. It's gorgeous hardware wrapped in leather and metal with a motorized lens cover that slides down when you turn it on. It feels premium. XGMI uses a dual light engine combining laser and LED. The theory is that the LED fills in the spectral gaps of the laser to improve colors and reduce speckle. And it works. The image is clean, sharp, and colorful. But the real magic trick here is the auto setup. You plop this thing down on a coffee table at a weird angle, Turn it on, and in about 15 seconds, it uses cameras and sensors to automatically focus, keystone correct, and even dodge obstacles on your wall like light switches or plants. It is undisputedly the easiest projector to live with. So, what's the catch? It's the jack of all trades, master of none. It's rated at 2300 ISO lumens, but it struggles in ambient light compared to the A-wall. Its contrast is better than the A-wall, but nowhere near the JVC or 4M movie. The black bars are very clearly gray bars. It's frustratingly close to being amazing. It supports Dolby Vision. It has a decent gaming mode around 18 milliseconds lag. And it has built-in Android TV that actually works. But if you're critical about picture quality, if you're the kind of person who notices image noise or elevated blacks, the Horizon Ultra will leave you wanting more. It's a fantastic secondary projector for a bedroom or a playroom. But as your main home theater display, it just doesn't have the guts. We're seeing a pattern here, aren't we? Every single one of these machines, from the $3,000 giants to the sleek portables, has a fatal flaw. The industry is playing a shell game. They give you brightness over here, but take away contrast over there. They give you sharpness, but take away features. They give you convenience, but take away raw performance. When I sold my 85-inch TV, I thought I was upgrading. I wasn't. I was side-grading into a world of compromises that the manufacturers are desperate to hide from you. They sell you the dream of the 120 in theater, but they don't tell you about the construction required, the mandatory 1,000 screens, the fan noise, the heat, and the fact that you can never ever watch a scary movie with a lamp on again. You have to stop looking for the best projector. It doesn't exist. You have to start looking for the set of compromises you can live with. Are you a gamer who doesn't care about deep blacks? Are you a movie buff with a dedicated light control dungeon? Are you someone who just wants a massive image in their living room for sports and doesn't care about color accuracy? Until you answer that question, keep your wallet closed, because right now the technology isn't there to give you everything in one box. The marketing says no compromise. My testing says that's a lie. We need to figure out which lie is the most expensive one. We've looked at 50 lb ceiling-mounted behemoths and laser TVs that demand perfectly flat walls, but I know a lot of you are sitting there with $1,000 burning a hole in your pocket, wondering if the jump to $3,000 is really necessary. Is there a hidden gem in the budget aisle that gets you 90% of the way there? That leads us to the budget 4K laser category and something like the Dangby Mars Pro 2. It's a small, unassuming black cube. It claims 4K. It uses laser illumination, and it's literally a third of the price of the Epson LS1200. How? Well, this is the ultimate cheat code projector. It uses an even smaller, lower resolution 1080p chip than the Epson, and it shifts those pixels incredibly fast to simulate 4K. Does it work? But you turn it on, and for just over $1,000, it's surprisingly okay. It's bright enough for a dim room. The laser colors are punchy. If you've never seen a high-end JVC or Sony, you'll probably think this is amazing. It's the fast food of home theater. It fills the void. It tastes good in the moment, but it's not nutritious. Put it next to a real TV and the cracks show instantly. The fan whine is high-pitched and constant, and the black levels are basically bright gray. But if your budget is hard-capped, this is the floor of what's acceptable. Don't go cheaper than this. So where does that leave us? After hundreds of hours of testing, burning my retinas with lasers, mounting and unmounting heavy hardware, and realizing I needed to repaint my living room a darker shade of gray, I realized there isn't one answer. The idea of a best projector is a marketing lie. There are 4 distinct buckets, and you need to figure out which one you fall into before you spend a dime. If you buy the wrong projector for your room, you will hate it. Bucket number 1, the competitive gamer. You need speed over everything else. You don't care if the cinematic blacks are a bit washed out. You just need that sub 20 millisecond response time so you aren't getting fragged because of input lag. You need high refresh rates. Stop looking at AUS. Stop looking at JVCs. You need to buy the Epson LS12000. It's the only long throw in this price bracket that handles 4K 120 Hz properly without costing as much as a used Honda Civic. It's big, it's industrial, but it works every time you fire up your PS5. Bucket number 2, the Dungeon Master. You have a dedicated room. Maybe it's a basement, Maybe it's a spare bedroom where you've blacked out the windows. You are chasing that true IMAX feeling, and you won't settle for close enough. You want that three-dimensional pop that only comes from deep contrast. You buy the JVC NP5. You deal with the expensive lamp replacements every few years. You wait the 3 minutes for it to warm up every time you turn it on. And you enjoy the best picture money can buy short of spending $20,000 on a high-end laser monster. It's high maintenance. It's old tech, but the payoff in a dark room is unmatched. Bucket number 3, the living room gambler. You want to replace your TV in a normal room with windows and white walls. You are fighting a losing battle against physics, and the industry is happy to take your money while you try. But if you insist, the AWOL LTV 3500 Pro is your only real weapon. It's a blunt instrument. It's too bright. The colors are neon radioactive to cut through the ambient light, but it's the only thing that won't totally wash out when the kitchen lights are on. But hear me, you must buy an expensive ALR screen with it, or you are literally throwing money away. Bucket number 4, the renter or the minimalist. You cannot drill holes in your ceiling. You don't want a giant box sitting on a credenza 18 in from the wall. You want something sleek that you can move from the living room to the bedroom for a movie night in bed. Get the XGMI Horizon Ultra. It's not the best at anything. The contrast is mediocre. The brightness is just okay, but the auto setup is pure magic. It looks good enough for Netflix, and it doesn't require a general contractor to install. But NextGen picks, you have to pick one. If my house burned down tomorrow and I had insurance money for one projector to replace that 85-inch TV, what would I buy? For best value, the sweet spot is the Hisense PX3 Pro. It's a pain to set up because it needs a perfectly flat wall. And yes, some people see laser speckle, but the color performance is truly next gen. It hits colors that my expensive OLED TV can't even display. As a US, it's easier to live with than a ceiling mount unit. If you pair it with a decent screen, it delivers 80% of the ultra high-end experience for about 50% of the price. But for best overall performance, if I'm committing to the home theater life and I want the image that drops jaws, it's the JVC NP5. I hate that it uses old bulbs. I hate that it's huge, but when the lights go down and the movie starts, it's the only projector in this group that makes me forget I'm watching a projector. The contrast creates a depth that laser units in this price range just cannot match yet. It's the purist's choice. Look, I'll be honest with you. I still miss my 85-inch TV sometimes, especially on a Sunday afternoon when I just want to watch football with the windows open and not feel like I'm sitting in a cave. The hard truth the industry won't tell you. The truth I learned the expensive way is that projectors are not TV replacements. They are TV alternatives for very specific scenarios. They are high-effort, high-reward devices. You are trading convenience and daytime usability for sheer scale and cinematic immersion. If you aren't willing to put in the effort, the darkroom, the right screen, the calibration, you are wasting your money. You're better off buying a 98 in TCL or Hisense LCD TV for roughly the same price. It'll be brighter, easier to use, and you won't need to repaint your walls. But if you've seen the light, or rather the lack of light, and you're ready for the projector life, do not buy blind. I've linked the specific models we talked about below. I've vetted these sellers to make sure you aren't getting gray market units with voided warranties or older firmware revisions, which is a huge problem with brands like Hisense and Farov right now. Use those links as the safe path. Thanks for watching for NextGen Picks and good luck.